Hello students. Now we are going to see a new topic, that is the unique features of the skull. So there are some unique features for the skull. So that is what we are going to see now. The skull exhibits several unique features which is not seen in other parts of the body. So what are they? They include sutures, paranasal sinuses and fontanelles. So this is what we are going to study today. What are sutures? So, sutures, as you can see, the name implies you would have heard about the suture, which is joining the two parts. It is an immovable joint in most cases in an adult skull that holds most skull bones together. So, what is a suture? It is an immovable joint which will join the adult skull and will hold the skull bones together. So, in infants, the sutures are often movable. In infants and children, the sutures are movable joints. So, the names of many sutures will reflect the bones they unite. So, for example, the frontozygomatic suture is between the frontal bone and the zygomatic bone. Similarly, the sphenoparietal suture is between the sphenoid bone and the parietal bone. Now we will see, this is the lateral view of the skull, and you can see the different bones: parietal bone, frontal bone, ethmoid bone, sphenoid bone, zygomatic bone, nasal bone, maxilla, mandible, and a temporal bone, occipital bone. So in between the two bones, you can see the lines which are called as the sutures, which will join the two different bones together. So this is called as a suture. Now this coronal suture will join the parietal bone and the zygomatic bone. Similarly, you have other sutures also, which will, here you can see the temporal squama, and this is the squamous suture. So, squamous suture will join the parietal bone and the temporal bone. So, likewise, you have many sutures which will join the skull bones together. So, this is the posterior view of the skull, and you can see many sutures here. So, this is the sagittal suture which will join the two parietal bones together, and you can see the sutural bones. This is the lumboid suture, this is the occipital bone, so it joins the parietal bone and the occipital bone. This is the external occipital protuberance, and you can see many other sutures also. Of the many sutures found in the skull, we will identify only four prominent ones. What are they? First one is the coronal suture. So, as the name implies, this coronal suture means it is a crown and unites the frontal bone and both the parietal bones. The second one is the sagittal suture. Sagittal means arrow. It unites the two parietal bones on the superior midline of the skull. Third one is the lambdoid suture. So this unites the two parietal bones to the occipital bone. This is also named so because of the resemblance of the Greek letter lambda. The fourth one is the squamous suture. Squamous means flat. They unite the parietal and the temporal bones on the lateral aspects of the skull. Now we will see another unique feature of the skull, that is called as the paranasal sinuses. So paranasal sinuses are cavities within certain cranial and facial bones near the nasal cavity. So here you can see a lot of paranasal sinuses. You can see the frontal sinus. This is the frontal sinus, and the pink colored ones are the ethmoid cells of the ethmoid sinus. You can see here the pink colored ones are the ethmoid cells of the ethmoid sinus, and you can see the green color sphenoid sinus. On both the pictures, you can see the sphenoid sinus, and the yellow colored ones are called as the maxillary sinus. So, this is the anterior view and the right lateral view of the skull. So, what are they? What are the paranasal sinuses? So, they are lined with a mucous membrane and are continuous with the lining of the nasal cavity. So, the mucus secretions produced by the mucous membrane of the paranasal sinuses drain into the nasal cavity. Paranasal sinuses are not present at birth, but they develop during the process of puberty, that is, in the prepubescent years, as outgrowths of the nasal mucosa and stops at puberty. Skull bones contain the paranasal sinuses are the frontal, sphenoid, ethmoid, and maxillary paranasal sinuses. So, what are they? Frontal sinus, sphenoid sinus, ethmoid sinus, and the maxillary sinus. What are the functions of the paranasal sinuses? So, these sinuses lighten the mass of the skull and increase the surface area of the nasal mucosa. So, it will also increase the production of mucus, which will help in the moistening and also the cleaning of the inhaled air. So, in addition, what are the other functions of the paranasal sinuses? They serve as resonating or echoing chambers within the skull that intensify and prolong sounds. So, they will enhance the quality of the voice. The next function is the influence of the sinus on your voice becomes obvious when you have a cold. So, the difference in the voice when there is a secretion of mucus will change during cold. So the passageways through which the sound travels into and out of the sinus become blocked by excess mucus production, changing the quality of your sound. The next unique feature of the skull is the fontanelles. So what are the fontanelles? The skeleton of a newly formed embryo consists of cartilage or mesenchyme arranged in sheet-like layers that resemble membranes shaped like the bones they will become. So these are the fontanelles. They are very, very important in very young children. So at birth, the mesenchyme filled spaces called as fontanelles, which means little fountains, called as soft spots. You can see the soft spots in the top of the skull in very young, newly born infants. So they are present between the cranial bones. So this is the picture showing the fontanelles at birth. So what are fontanelles? They are the mesenchyme filled spaces between cranial bones that are present at birth. So you can see the fontanelle here. This is the anterior fontanelle present in the future. There is it becomes the coronal suture in the future. That it will join together and they form the coronal suture in the future. So these are the spaces between the cranial parietal bone and the frontal bone. Again, you can see the anterolateral fontanelle present here, connecting the sphenoid bone and the parietal bone, frontal bone, and the temporal bone. So this suture, what you can see here, here this becomes the squamous suture in the future. Later in the development of the infant, it becomes closed, and some fontanelles will close immediately after birth, but some fontanelles take some time for closing. So this is called as the posterolateral fontanelle, and this in future they will become the lambdoid suture. So this connects the occipital bone and the parietal bone and the temporal bone. So this is the posterior fontanelle. So we will see the fontanelles one by one. So what are fontanelles? They are areas of unossified mesenchyme. They will be replaced with the bone by intramembranous ossification and will become sutures, which are strong structures later in life. Functionally, the fontanelles provide some flexibility to the fetal skull, allowing the skull to grow and change shape as it passes through the birth canal and later permitting rapid growth of the brain during infancy. So that is how it permits the growth of the brain as the infant grows. So the infant may have many fontanelles at birth. So the form and location of six fontanelles are known. The first one is the unpaired anterior fontanelle. So this is the largest fontanelle, anterior fontanelle, and it is located at the midline between the two parietal bones and the frontal bone. So this is having the shape of a diamond, and it usually closes at 18 to 12, 24 months after birth. The next one is the posterior fontanelle. This is also unpaired and is located at the midline between the two parietal bones and the occipital bone. This is much smaller than the previous one, anterior fontanelle, and it generally closes about 2 months after birth. The anterolateral fontanelle is paired unlike the previous ones, and they are located laterally between the frontal, parietal, temporal, and the sphenoid bones. They are small and irregular in shape. So when they will close about 3 months after birth. The next one is the posterolateral fontanelles. They are also paired and located laterally between the parietal, occipital, temporal bones. They are irregularly shaped. So they begin to close 1 to 2 months after birth, but closure is generally not complete until 12 months. So the amount of closure in the fontanelles helps a physician to gauge the brain development of the infant. So in addition, the anterior fontanelle serves as a landmark for withdrawal of blood for analysis from the superior sagittal sinus, that is a large vein on the midline surface of the brain. So this is the fontanelles. As you can see, the anterior fontanelle, the posterior fontanelle, this is the posterolateral fontanelle, and this is the anterolateral fontanelle. Next unique feature is the hyoid bone. So hyoid bone is single and U-shaped. It is a unique component of the axial skeleton because it does not articulate with any other bone. It does not move with any other bone. It is suspended from the styloid processes of the temporal bones by ligaments and muscles. So you can see the hyoid bone here. This is the hyoid bone. This structure you would have studied when you study the structure of the larynx. So this is the anterior view. This is the lateral view. You can see the greater horn, lesser horn, and the body. And this is the, you can see the lateral view of the greater horn, lesser horn, and the body. So this hyoid is located in the anterior neck between the mandible and the larynx. So between the mandible and the larynx. This hyoid bone supports the tongue, providing attachment site for some tongue muscles and for muscles of the neck and pharynx. The hyoid bone also helps to keep the larynx open at all times. Voice box. The hyoid bone consists of a horizontal body and paired projections called the lesser horns and the greater horns, as you have seen in the picture. The muscles and ligaments attached to these paired projections. The hyoid bone and the cartilages of the larynx and trachea are often fractured during strangulation. So that is what they will examine during the autopsy. What is the cause of the death when a person is strangulated to death? So this hyoid bone and the cartilages of the larynx, cricoid cartilage, will undergo some fracture during strangulation. So today's class we have seen some unique features of the skull. Thank you.